Hello friends, this is my last lecture on the topic Narcotic and Psychotropic Substances Act. I have already covered 3 lectures and we have seen in those 3 lectures the introduction, history, objective, some important points as covered in my part 1 lecture. In part 2 we have seen the officers and the authorities, those who are responsible for the cultivation and collection and NCB, that is Narcotic Control Bureau. And in the 3rd lecture we have seen the sales and production of opium, and here we will deal with the offences and the penalties. So let's see that control, prohibition and regulation. So what are the main points that are being prohibited, controlled and regulated by state government as well as central government? And second, the offences and penalties with respect to this act. So let us go through it one by one. So we will start with the prohibition, control and regulation. What are the major prohibitions of certain operations? That what are, according to the government or according to the laws, what things are wrong, or we can say we can do this in this manner but this is correct or incorrect. So it is the discretionary power of the government under his act and the laws laid down by the government with respect to narcotic and psychotropic substances. So let us see what are the prohibitions of certain operations. What are the things that are prohibited, which are found illegal? As per section 8, no person shall cultivate any coca plant or gather any portion of coca plant or cultivate the opium poppy or any cannabis plant. No person shall cultivate it. Can you see this? No person shall cultivate it, that is, common people cannot go through the cultivation process of these narcotic substances. You have to have the license to go through the same. If you want the cultivation of opium, coca or any kind of narcotic drug, then you have to have a license for it. No common people can go through it. So that is prohibited. Now coming to the second point, produce, manufacture, possesses, sale, purchase, transport, warehouse, use, consume, import, interstate, export, interstate, import into India, export from India, any narcotic drug or psychotropic substances except for medicinal and scientific purpose. If these drug has to go through these operations, that is produce, manufacture, possesses, sale, purchase, transport, warehouse, use, consume, import, export, or you can say any kind of movement of these drugs will be done only under medicinal and scientific purpose only. If you have a legal license to do so, then only you can do any kind of these operations. Else, everything is prohibited. So these are the 2 points where the things are being prohibited. Now let's see the powers of central government. I have already discussed these in the second lecture, that is what are the powers of central government and what are the powers of state government. Let us have a brief over here also. So we are discussing over here the power of central government to permit, control and regulate. What are the powers of central government which they can permit, they can control, they can regulate? So let's have the first point, the cultivation or gathering of any portion of coca plant or the production of sale, purchase, transport, import, interstate, export, interstate, use of consumption of coca leaves is controlled by the central government. The cultivation of the opium poppy only on account of central government. So the coca is controlled by state government and opium is controlled by central government. So we have seen here what are the powers. The powers of doing any kind of operation of central government as well as state government. I suppose this topic will be more clear if you will go through the second lecture first and then this lecture. So what are the powers of central government and what are the powers of state government? I have described it in detail. So coming to the next slide, the production and the manufacture of opium and production of opium straw. These are also controlled by the government. The sale of opium and opium derivatives from the central government factories for export from India or sale to state government to manufacturing chemist. Everything is controlled by the government. You cannot even hold a bit of morphine into your hand or any narcotic drug into your hand if you don't have a permission from the government. And everything is under the eye of government. Every operation is controlled by the government, is under the supervision of the government person authorized. If we talk about the import into India and export from India, transshipment of NDPS, the import and export, how it is controlled. If we are talking about the import and export, then the manufacture, possessions, transport, import interstate, export interstate, sale, purchase, consumption or uses of psychotropic substances is all controlled by the government. That is, the import and export is controlled by the government of transshipment of NDPS. Prohibition, control and regulation. The import into India and export from India transshipment of NDPS, the manufacture, possession, transport, import interstate, export interstate, sale, purchase, consumption or use of psychotropic substances is also controlled by the government. You can find these words or these terminologies again and again. If we talk about these, this is all termed as process. The process of opium from being cultivation, then after cultivation, collection, and after collection there comes manufacture, possession, transport, import, interstate, export, interstate, warehousing, sales, everything comes under the process, or you can say the operations, which are controlled by state as well as central government. So these are the prohibition as well as control and regulations of the narcotic drugs. Central government control on certain operations according to the rules. What are the rules? That it will fix the limit of license for the cultivation. If you will have a license, like we have a license for production or license of transportation, like a motor vehicle license or pharmacist license, every license has a fixed tenure. So the license for the cultivation will also be fixed. And how it will be fixed? Government shall fix the limit of license. That is, it can be of 1 year, it can be of 2 years, it can be of 5 years. Normally, we all have a tenure of 5 years for any kind of license, but if we talk about over here, it is the government who will fix the limit or the time period of the license which you are being applying for, or you can say you have. So ultimately, if you want to deal with any kind of narcotic drug and psychotropic substances, first you have to have the license to do so. Purchase also is controlled by the person having the license. Only the authorized person who will have the prior permission can do the business with it. So it is the government who will fix the time of license. The product cultivated by cultivator shall be delivered to the authorized officer. So as we have seen that only at Ghazipur and Neemach the all official work is being conducted. It is the Lambardar and the narcotic officer, district officer, narcotic commissioner, who under whose supervision you can cultivate any kind of narcotic drugs. We have seen the process of opium in detail, that how the drug is being processed or how the dealing is done. Then it is almost same with other narcotic drugs. We can say with coca or any cannabis, ganja or any kind of narcotic drug. Then the process is same, entirely same. The rules and regulations are same. Only the difference will be in the favorable condition that we have seen that it is grown in the state of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. The climatic factor can be bit change. So, when the cultivation is done under the authorized person, the cultivated drug is delivered under those authorized persons only to the specified place, that is the government factories, the government authorities who have the prior license, who will work with these narcotic drugs. Government shall fix the price to be paid to the cultivator for the opium delivered, and it is the government who fixes the price. So here we have seen the two major points that are being fixed by the government is the license, the tenure of the license, as well as the price limit of the drug which is being cultivated. So these are the controlled by the governments, or the operations controlled by the governments. Prohibition, control and regulations, if we will see it further, the rules may be prescribed that opium shall be weighed, examined and classified according to its quality. If you remember, we were talking about the adulterated drug. Adulterated drug, that everybody know what is adulteration. That is the mixing of spurious drug with inferior drug or other material. Superior drug is admixed with inferior drug to increase the quantity and to reduce the cost, to increase the profit. So this adulteration process, if done with this narcotic drug, then how we deal with it? If the drug is adulterated, the cultivator does not get the required amount which he is applicable for. So here comes the quality. If you will maintain the quality during the cultivation and production, then you will have the right amount to be paid from the government authority. And consistency by the officers authorized in this behalf by the central government in with the presence of cultivator at the time of the delivery by the cultivator. So at every level you have a point of check. You have a controlled person, you have the authorized person who will control, or you can say who will check the quality, the quantity of the drug being cultivated, processed and being used. So everything has to be done under control and regulations. So let's see. The rules may provide for the weighing, examine and classify according to its quality and consistency of the opium received at the factory, and the deduction from or addition to the standard price to be made in accordance with the result of such examination. The quantity has to be examined properly by the authorized person, and according to the quality, the cultivator is paid by the amount. So it's a bit clear for you that the quality is directly proportional to the cost of the drug that has to be given to the cultivator. If it is found adulterated with any sort of spurious drugs or admixtures, then the cost is not reduced. The crop is being destroyed. You will get nothing. You will get zero. So if you will do it correctly, then you will have your amount properly. The check is being made from time to time and you have to follow it properly. So after these prohibition, we will come to the second topic of our presentation today, of our lecture today, that is the offences and the penalties. Through the entire topic of the last three lectures, we have seen at where the major offences can be developed and what will be the penalties. Accordingly, we will see in this topic. So if we talk about the offences and the punishments or for contravention in relation to, if we are talking about with poppyum straw, coca plant and leaves, prepared opium, opium poppy and opium, manufactured drug and preparation, psychotropic substances, cannabis plants and cannabis. So these are the main criterion on which we will be talking about that if there is any kind of offences with respect to these points, then what will be their particular penalties. And in further, we will also see that what are the major offences with respect to these major headings. So let's go through it one by one. Punishment for illegal import into India, export from India on transshipment of NDPS. That is, if you are dealing with transshipment of narcotic drug, then what will be the penalty? Or let's see it further. Punishment for external dealing in NDPS in contravention from the provision of this Act. Then what will be the penalties? First attempt, rigorous imprisonment for 10 to 20 years and a fine of up to or more than 1 lakh. Second attempt, if you are found guilty, then a rigorous imprisonment for 15 to 30 years and a fine of up to rupees more than 2 lakhs. So ultimately what we conclude, that if you are doing any mischief during its transshipment, that is import, export, processing from here to there or there to here, if you are buying or doing anything with respect to it, then these are the two major, the first conviction, that is the first punishment, and if you are found guilty again, then the punishment is being doubled, 10 to 15 and 20 to 30, and from 1 lakh to rupees 2 lakhs. So this was the first and major offense that many people are going through. Now if we talk about second, for handling ganja, a rigorous imprisonment which may extend up to 10 years and a fine of rupees 1 lakh. That if you are found engaged with ganja, you are found engaged in the transshipment of ganja, then the imprisonment will be of 10 years and a fine of rupees 1 lakh. You have to give this penalty. Coming to the next one, we have on carrying any small quantities of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, the punishment may extend to 1 year or a fine or both. If you are found small quantities of narcotic drugs with you, then this is the punishment, you have to go through it. Let's see the next one. Under a specified court order, there is a provision for detoxification of the patient. Other offences include external dealing, embezzlement of opium, financing, illicit traffic, illegal import, export from India. If you have found any of these conventions, then the penalties for them include, for handling ganja, we have seen there is a fine of 1 lakh and an imprisonment of 10 years. So other offences, external dealings, embezzlement of opium, financing, illicit traffic, illegal import and export from India. For any of these penalties, you have imprisonment as well as a fine. So you have to control and have a controlled operations with these. If we see the things again, let's have a brief review with it. In this, we have seen the prohibition, control and regulation, offences and penalties, and the prohibitions, or we can see the things which are to be controlled were the cultivation and its processing. If we talk about the production and manufacture, it has to be under government supervision, and if we talk about the import into India, the only process has to be, the whole process has to be controlled by the government. The control, if we talk about the process, I have already told you that process includes cultivation and collection and the entire manufacturing from import, export, sales and purchase, everything. And if we see the central government control on certain operations, that is the limit of license or the tenure of the license and the price to be paid. The price which is paid will be directly proportional to the quality of the drug that is being cultivated by the cultivator. The rules like may be prescribed that opium shall be weighed, examined, because the cost is directly proportional to the quality of the product. So it is the government officer who will examine, weigh it and classify according to its quality. So the quality of the drug is of major importance and you have to go through it in detail. We have also seen that the rules may provide for the weighed, examine and classify according to the quality, consistency of the opium, and if the cultivator is not satisfied, then he may move to the district opium officer as well as to the government officer in the government industry, where he will get his justified amount. Next, in the next part, we have seen the offences and penalties. So we have here seen that the penalties, or we can see the offences, are with respect to the opium, the poppy straw, the coca plant, the prepared opium, opium poppy and poppy, opium, manufactured drug and preparations, psychotropic substances, cannabis plant and cannabis. So with these respects, we have dealt with the offences and the respective penalties, and we have seen the major penalties include the imprisonment as well as fine. So if a person is found to be guilty, he has to pay a fine of rupees minimum 1 lakh to a maximum of 2 lakh as and where applied. So we have seen that punishment for illegal import into India, export from India, transshipment of NDPS, or if we can see that the external dealing with NDPS or narcotic drugs has an imprisonment of 10 to 20 years in the first conviction, 15 to 30 years in the second conviction, and the amount varies from 1 lakh to 2 lakh. The penalties are directly proportional to the convention as well as the tenure is also directly proportional to the convention. That is, if you are found convicted for the first time, then it is less, and if you are found to be convicted for the second time, then it is approximately doubled. So these are the penalties with respect to the import, export and transport. And if you are found handling ganja, a rigorous imprisonment which may extend to 10 years and a fine up to 1 lakh rupee. On carrying small quantities of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, the punishment may extend to 1 year or a fine or both. So under specified court order, there is a provision for the detoxification of the patient, and other offences include external dealing, embezzlement of opium. What does embezzlement means? Embezzlement means if you are doing wrong in any step for the concerned with narcotic drug, that is called embezzlement. Then you are fixed with the penalties like dealing with narcotic drug, that is 10 years imprisonment and all. So these were the offences and penalties for handling rigorous imprisonment, which may extend up to 10 years and a fine of rupees 1 lakh rupee. Carrying small quantities of narcotic drugs, the punishment may extend to 1 year or fine of both. So here we have finished the topic of narcotic drug and psychotropic substances. All this we have done with according to the syllabus, that is your subject code BP 505 according to the AKtU University. So here the major topics covered are the functions, or you can see the major way of cultivating opium, the officers in charge. So with all this, I hope the topic is quite clear for you. Thank you.